I know. It can't get to you fast enough, can it? No. Open. Thank you. Hey guys, it's been a long time, but I'm finally able to sit and film our birth story for our daughter, Kinsley. So her name is Kinsley Marie. She was born on August 10th, and let's see, it was at 11:42 in the morning, and she was 7 pounds and 14 ounces. Her name came from out of nowhere, actually. The story behind it, first of all, my husband and I both work with children and teenagers, and every name has a personality. Kinsley was one of the only names that we didn't have a personality for, didn't know anybody with that name. And then I actually got the name wrong. So back when I was in, I think like high school, there was this show about these little girls. I don't think it was Toddlers and Tiaras, but it was something like that. Maybe it was. And I thought the little girl's name was Kinsley Rice, but her name was Kinley, and I didn't find that out until after we had talked about the name Kinsley and really liked it. So that's kind of the backstory. My mother-in-law also said it kind of sounds like we took my mom and my sister's name and smucked them together. So my mom's name is Karen, my sister's name is Lindsay, so kind of like that. And then Marie is my middle name, my mom's middle name, my grandmother's middle name, so that's just a family name that's been passed down. Back to the induction. If you've never watched a video of mine, we were induced at 38 weeks because in a previous pregnancy I had lost our son Connor at 31 weeks due to preeclampsia. The placenta gave out. So along this whole pregnancy, the idea was that if I was showing signs of preeclampsia, they were going to induce at 37 weeks if I had made it that far. So I had high blood pressure, well not high, elevated blood pressure throughout most of this pregnancy with her. So they thought 38 weeks, 39 weeks would be a good induction. The original doctor who I saw, I think was pushing more for 39 weeks, but I had mentioned 38 weeks and he was okay with that. So that's why we decided to go with a 38-week induction. I was supposed to be called in around 4 a.m. on August 9th to come in for 6 o'clock. And the call never came. So that whole night I was like on and off sleeping. I woke up at 3, I think, and I just could not fall back asleep because I was waiting for this phone call. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock came, no phone call. Which I kind of knew that, if it's busy there, they're not going, they don't have a choice. We have to wait. So by the time I actually calmed down, I was laying on the couch, and I think it was going on 11 o'clock, and the phone rings, and they're like, okay, come on in. And I'm like, okay. So one thing that I really liked, and I'll post it here, Chris decided to take a picture of us before we left for the induction, which at the time I was like, oh, okay, come on, let's just go. But I'm so glad that he did that because it's the last photo that we have of just him and I together. Then we went to the hospital, we got checked in. We're here. I don't think I will be vlogging that much. Just kind of playing it as I feel here, but the only update I have right now is I have my IV in. I don't know how many check-ins you'll get. To be honest, I'm not even sure if I'm going to set up the camera for the birth. Just kind of see and play it by ear. They put us in a room that I thought had looked familiar, and it actually was the same room that we had Connor in. And they had asked, is this okay with you? Do you want to choose a different room? I think one other room was available at that time, but the nurse who we had thought that was the room that we were in currently was the only room. She wasn't aware that there was another room. So I was okay with that. I actually didn't mind. I know some people might not want to be in that room, but for me, it was okay. So we decided to stay there. What they gave me was this little tablet, and they told me to put it under my tongue and let it dissolve. And that's what would get the contractions going. Initially, the contractions kind of felt like Braxton Hicks contractions. They weren't painful, but a little uncomfortable. And then, so that went on for a while. And they gradually got a little worse and a little worse and a little worse. And then they checked me. Oh, they checked me originally and I was not dilated at all. My cervix was high and something else. My cervix wasn't dilated at all. It was high and long but soft. So
probably going to be here a while.
Yeah, so they gave me the medication. They checked me again. I don't think I was dilated. No, they didn't check me again. I think they just weren't seeing consistent contractions on the monitors, what was going on. So they gave me, wake up! They gave me another dose. And then that one worked a little bit more, and I was actually getting uncomfortable. And then we were going into the nighttime, and I said, they had talked about giving me another dose, and I said, if I'm not really progressing yet, and we're going into the nighttime, and I didn't really sleep well the night before, you gotta give me something to sleep. So they gave me another dose, and then they gave me an IV of something. That only lasted for about 2.5 hours on me, 2.5 to 3 hours. And then I was drowsy, but I was up, and then the contractions were super uncomfortable. And then I think it was 6 o'clock in the morning, I had turned a little bit maybe, and I felt a little pop, and then water. So my water had broke. And Chris was sleeping, and I pressed the call button, and the nurse came on, and I was like, I think my water just broke. And all of a sudden he shoots up from his bed and was like, what? Like, went to go call his mom, went to go call my parents, although I told him, just because my water broke doesn't necessarily mean things are happening right now. And I even asked the nurse, I said, so if my water broke, does that mean I'm dilated? And she's like, not necessarily. I was like, no, okay. So my water broke, she let me go take a shower. I came back, and they checked me again, and I was at a 4, which was good. I was glad it wasn't anything less than that. But the contractions were getting wicked intense. And to the point, I think it was, I don't even remember what time I got the epidural. I'm going to guess like 8, 9-ish, maybe. Contractions were probably coming about every minute, I would say, lasting about 30 seconds or so. So I really wasn't getting a break at all. So I decided to go with an epidural. The anesthesiologist came in, gave me the epidural. It probably kicked in about 10 to 15 minutes later. So my legs started to go numb, and then they had to give me the catheter. Hi. Are you gonna burp? She hates to burp, by the way. It was around 10 o'clock. I remember saying to either my nurse or to Chris, I felt like I was having pressure, basically. Like I had to poop, kind of, and I do remember that feeling from Connor's birth. But this was different. I think my epidural was wearing off when I had Connor, where this epidural was still intact. So I don't remember who came in and checked me. It was either the resident that they had or the doctor. I can't remember. But someone came in, checked me, and I was at a 10. So in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'm a 10. She's going to be here in like 30 minutes. Not so much. I started pushing, and that went okay. Like, it wasn't too bad. I was doing pretty well. And then, this is kind of embarrassing, so if you do not like TMI, go ahead and fast forward a little bit. But I was pushing, and I looked down, and I saw my nurse with a wipe. And I was like, crap. Literally. I'm watching her pull these wipes back, and I was pooping, essentially, while I was pushing. And the resident was really good. She looked at me, and she's like, that's okay if you're doing that, because that means you're doing it right. And I was like, okay, great, cool. At that point, I mean, I was a little embarrassed, but I also kind of was like, whatever, it is what it is. Half hour went by, no baby. An hour went by, no baby. So it took an hour and a half, really, to push her out, which I used to think was really bad. And then I just met a girl who had a baby also on the exact same day as her. She pushed for 6 hours before they decided to do a C-section. So that's intense. I thought an hour and a half was bad. Oh my goodness. Look at this. Oh, she won't give me my bottle. You don't burp. Where's your burps? Oh, we got one. Good job. While I think we were maybe at the 1 hour mark, the resident who was guiding me through the pushing and all of that, I really liked, maybe some people wouldn't like this, but I really liked it. She would say, like, when you push, I can see like this much of your baby's head. And that was encouraging to me. Between pushes, she had asked me, do you want to feel your baby's head? And in the moment, I was like, yeah, I do. So I reached down, I felt the top of her head, and that was like, wow, like she's really close. And after I did that, the resident looked at me and said, it's so nice to have someone who actually wanted to do that, because I guess a lot of people don't want to. I get it. But I liked it, and to me that was very encouraging because I couldn't see and I didn't want to see. She told me that when things were getting closer, she would call the doctor down. And I wish I would have, I wasn't thinking at the time, which is why you're mostly hearing me talk about this and not seeing footage. In the moment, I was so focused on what was going on and uncomfortable, and I just wanted her here so badly that filming it was the last thing on my mind. And looking back, I wish I would have asked Chris, when she said, let's go ahead and get the doctor down. I wish I would have had him place the camera, even if it wasn't focusing on us, just to get the sound. It is what it is, and, this just wasn't what my main focus was on. I feel like it went from 0 to 60. The pushes gradually got more uncomfortable, and that's a weird feeling, to want her here so bad, so you want to push as effectively as possible, but to have them hurt so you don't want to push as hard. Very weird feeling. But I remember all of a sudden it was like everybody's voices got really excited because she was almost there. I also remember at this time Chris looked at his mom, who was also in the room. He was holding my left leg, and I think she was holding my right leg, or the nurse was holding my right leg. I can't remember. And I remember Chris saying, okay, Mom, can you come back over here? And she came back over and held my left leg. He wanted to be up more towards my head. And the next thing I knew, her head was out, and they were telling me to kind of hold off for a minute. And then I pushed again, and she was here, and they put her right up on my chest. They'd asked me if I wanted that, and I said yes. They put her right up on my chest, and yeah, there she was. And it was the most surreal, incredible thing ever. I remember her warmth. She was so warm and so wet, and she had all of that, I should know what this is called. Vernix, I think that's what it's called. It was all over her still. So that got on me, which I didn't care at that point. And she was there, and I cried, and I remember my nurse, who was going to take care of her, was like, oh my God, I'm going to cry. And it was just very emotional to have her there and on my chest and crying. Very completely different experience, obviously, than the first time. I do have a clip after they had cleaned me up and after they had cleaned her up. They had her over in the little table with the warmer on top, so I'll put that here. Her toes.
Soak on the sun.
I'll put the picture that he took in here too. It was super cute talking to her and all of that too. That's pretty much it for the labor and birth story. We did have to stay in the hospital for an extended amount of time. So I think typically for first time parents they want you to stay 2 or 3 days, but we ended up having to stay 5. I'll never forget, it was, I think, the second night we were there. They came in the middle of the night to take her for her testing and do her vitals and all of that. Now, thinking back now, this is all kind of a blur, but what I do remember are pregnancy hormones going crazy, and I was super tired. The first night we were there, she was spitting up, hi. She was spitting up her amniotic fluid at night, so all of a sudden you would hear her gag and throw up. And that was really scary. So we didn't get a lot of sleep that night. They took her to do her vitals and her hearing screening and all of that. And the hearing screening actually came back. One of her ears passed and the other ear failed. So they said, it's a really high fail rate. We'll test her again later on. But for right now, one ear passed, one ear has failed. Then the nurses came in and they took this scanner and scanned her, was it her forehead or her belly? I can't remember. But they scanned one and then scanned the other. And she said that her bilirubin levels, according to their scanner, it was borderline. That meant that they had to go down and actually prick her foot, get blood and have that sent down to the lab to see what her bilirubin levels actually were. Had that done, and then while they were doing that, they tested her for PKU, pricked her feet there, did that. So I was getting the fact that they had her feet pricked so many times, and then her hearing test came back not as what we expected. As an exhausted hormone mom at that point, like hormones going crazy, I was distraught and like freaking out. I couldn't stop crying. So the next morning, the pediatrician came in. Hi. Hello. Told us her level was 12 point something. He, said that it was a Saturday, if it wouldn't have been a Saturday, he might have sent us home on the condition of going to see the doctor the next day to have her bilirubin level checked again. But because it was a Saturday and no place was open on Sunday, he's like, it could either go one of two ways. Either her bilirubin level is going to even out and then start dropping for Monday, or it's going to keep increasing, which if it keeps increasing, he said I would hate to see what the levels are like on Monday. So he decided to keep us another day, which at the time we were super upset about because, we're tired, we aren't sleeping well, all the hospital noises and all of that. Basically, we were just exhausted. But we also knew that that was the best place for us to be. Better to be there than to have to go home and then come back to have her tested and then have them tell us, oh, she has to stay and now you're on a different floor and you're not with the nurses that and on all of that kind of stuff. So they checked it again and her level had went from 12 to 16 on Sunday. So he came in on Sunday and said, I'm glad that we kept her here. So they decided to go ahead and order photolight therapy. So they brought in an isolate machine to keep her temperature warm because she had to be stripped down to her diaper. And then they had a machine or like a little mat that was under her. So she was getting light therapy on her back. And then she had one up top above her that was bringing it down. So they did that for almost 24 complete hours, which brought us to Monday. Monday morning, early, like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, they came in, pricked her foot again, took the blood that they needed, and then the pediatrician came in and said that it was down to 10, I think is what it was at. So they decided that that was good. It went down enough to where they felt like she was okay, and they discharged us to go home. Yeah, long story short, we had to stay in the hospital longer than what we wanted to, but we also knew that that was the best place for us to be. Are you getting fussy now? You want to sit up? Sit up. There, now they can see you too. Are you still fussing? Yeah. Do you have more burpees? No, it sounds like I'm smacking the crap out of her. Oh my god. What the hell was that? You have never ever made that sound before. Are you okay? Yeah, are you okay? Good Lord. That's pretty much it. If I have any other pictures or clips, I'll kind of insert them either here or maybe you've seen them sporadically throughout the video.
Congratulations. There you go. It'll start. You'll hear it.
Man, that's so cool.
It'll be soothing for you.
Wow.
Do you want the baby over?
No, it's okay.
She's good.
Go ahead, take a couple minutes, honey.
I'm okay.
You want me to push it
He just
again?
wants to get to his house for a couple of
God,
days.
no, I'll never stop
Sure,
crying.
I feel like you should have a double ringer.
Yes, we should push it like 3 or 4 times. Deb, go push that button.
Okay.
For gosh sake.
She likes her tongue.
Like, I don't know what this thing is. It's in my mouth. It feels weird. Yeah.
He looks so red in this light. He looks so red. Here's some baby footage. Good little hands. Oh, look at those little heels. She got pricked so many times. Yeah. Say, jaundice sucks, huh? Yeah, jaundice sucks. Yeah. Uh-huh. You like pooping on mommy? You get so red. Push it out, girlfriend. Yeah, push it out. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. What's going on?
For starters, what is this? Oh, right there.
That, my friend, looks like poop.
Yeah. And
Yep.
Did you hear what she just did when he came around the corner?
That sounds like a little horn. What are you doing? Are you pooping?
This is gonna be fun.
Yeah, so we're doing really well. I'm sorry this took so long to put up, but yeah, life has just been focusing on her. Hi, I talking about you. Has been focusing on her and just getting ready to go back to work. So with that said, I am going to go play with her for a little while, and then we are out the door for my 6-week check. Bless you. You're a mess. You are a mess. Yeah. Also, I will probably do a nursery room tour soon here too. There's not much to it, but there's a couple things that I wanted to point out. So I'll do a nursery room tour. So I'm not really sure what else I'm gonna film. I'll do updates for her. Yeah, we'll do updates for you. Yeah, yeah. I also just joined Weight Watchers again because I weigh too much. I'm not comfortable with it. Maybe I'll post some like recipe videos or like meal prep videos or just recipes that I try. Recipes that I try that I thought were really good, and I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I hear ya, girlfriend. I hear ya. Yeah. I'm tired. Yeah. Yeah. You are. Oh, goodness. Thank you guys so much for watching and for supporting us and following us and giving us words of encouragement. It's really helped me along throughout the entire pregnancy. So, all right. I will talk to you guys really soon. Bye. Oh, good timing, huh? Hi. You're awake. I didn't expect you to be awake. Hi. Your hair. Yeah, you had a hair. You don't want it? No. You're so awake. Yeah. Oh, uh-oh. Is that hiccups? Is that hiccups? Oh god, it's hiccups. Usually with hiccups, there's spit up. Hiccups? No hiccups?